Good evening. It's August 29th. I bowled in the last of the PBA 50 senior tour events this summer. Unfortunately, I um, didn't make the top 16, so got eliminated this afternoon. For some reason this summer I wasn't able to strike a lot. I was able to strike a little bit. I know my shot making's not as good as it used to be, so it's a little frustrating, but unfortunately when I did hit the pocket, it wasn't overly impressive. Sad part is um, I bowl two-handed every now and then, usually when I get frustrated bowling one-handed. And this particular week at the Tournament Champions, the first day I bowled 6 games one-handed, and then the last two I bowled two-handed. The second round, I think I bowled 3 games one-handed, and then went to two-handed. And then today, the third round, I bowled 4 games and then went two-handed the last 4 games. So, and the funny thing is I know my shot making's not as good two-handed, and my carry percentage even two-handed, because I keep track of that stat, was not overly impressive. I think it was like 66%. And when I bowled one-handed, it was like 62%. So it was normally it's like 72% when I hit the pocket. And I'm talking about shots that actually hit the pocket. I'm not talking about all my shots, because that would be really good if I could strike that much. Because I don't hit the pocket every shot. And my average two-handed was actually higher than my average one-handed. So kind of odd. Hi, Eric. Who did I room with when I was on? When I first was on tour, I roomed with a bunch of different guys. But then my ex-wife, when she started traveling with me, she was basically the person I roomed with the most. I roomed with a bunch of different guys, though. When my current wife, when she travels with me, she'll obviously travel with her. I'd rather room with her than anybody else, but she's also taking care of our new company, Compass Sportswear. So, and yes, I'm down here in Florida, and there is a hurricane that's coming up the Gulf of Mexico, or come up the Gulf of Mexico. It's starting to rain in parts of Florida. We had some rain, but it's really, right now, it's not that bad outside. It gets a little windy once in a while, but it's really, you really wouldn't know that it's a hurricane on the way, or going to be going by, I should say, because it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle of the night that it's going to get the worst around here. We're inland far enough that the wind shouldn't be too bad, and I think we're actually a little bit on a hill, so where is everybody? I thought there'd be a few more people. Nobody has any questions. Um, so this was my first senior tour year that I did not make a top 5 on the regular senior tour events. I did manage to win the one PBA 60 tournament, but the rest of the season was kind of mediocre. I was a little bit frustrated with that, but that's part of happening. Who was the one person you never looked forward to facing in tournaments? Well, anybody who's bowling well. Well, I mean, I like to bowl the good guys, but there's so many good players out there. Maybe it is equipment it came down to. Well, maybe, but I don't know. Hi, Matt. How you doing? Hello, Paul. Nobody has any questions? This might be a short Q&A. So far, we're good. The We've got very little rain so far, a little tiny bit of wind, but really nothing. But probably in the middle of the night when it's going to be the worst. So, Mr. Huff, how you doing? I'm doing all right. Besides the fact that I don't strike as much as I'd like to. Do you still do the Walter? Oh, I don't know what that is. So I guess I do. Unfortunately, I've been growling a lot more lately. Do you think power players are the future of the sport? Yes. Do you think more traditional bowling would make a comeback? I don't see that happening unless they make significant changes to what they do with the bowling lanes. If they ever went to um, oilless lanes, that might happen. Do I have a favorite ball? Um, my favorite ball these days, I really like the Quantum Evo Response. Um, the Infinity, I haven't thrown it that much. Maybe I should have. Am I not bowling tomorrow? I am not bowling tomorrow. That's correct, Sandy. I did not make the top 16. I finished, I think I was tied for 19th or something like that. So, do I still bowl in league? I am going to be bowling league. Last Wednesday was the first week of the league, and I was bowling in Fort Myers in the morning, and then I got done in the afternoon, and then I drove home, and I totally forgot about bowling league. So, but this tomorrow, assuming they don't cancel the league, I'll bowl. But there's a good possibility they might cancel the league due to the storm that's coming by. But the storm should be gone by the morning, or at least by afternoon. But you never know what happens with the storm, whether somebody gets flooded or power outages. Right now, it's very nice around here. So, all right. So I'm actually getting some nice comments, questions anyway. What brand of shoe do you pitch with these days? I pitch with the same ones I've been pitching with for the last 40 years, the Deadeye Clydesdales. How do you like the Mo-Rich balls? Okay, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I don't know why I can't. How did you like the Mo-Rich balls back in the day? I did alright with them. God, why does it do that? Met you at Laker Lanes one night, and now I'm bowling on extremely dry lanes, considering getting me a ball drilled pin down where the lanes are dry. What do you think? Everybody's different. Might want to go to a ball that has a lot less surface. Maybe a urethane ball, and if they're that dry, even a plastic ball. I have no idea. Everybody has a different version of what they say dry is. Most house conditions have a fair amount of non-oil on the outside part of the lanes. I have a little bit of issue that at least last year bowling league. Well, in league I bowl two-handed, so I got a lot more hook, and I don't throw the ball excessively hard. So, for me, those lanes hook a little bit for what I'm trying to do. So I've actually used plastic and urethane and try to use weaker balls. Okay, let's see. Why is this thing doing this? You'll get back on your striking waist in your tour. Look the same every week. Some guys, why is my thing doing this? I guess every time somebody types a message, it's going to do that. Okay. Some guys liked it and some guys didn't. I don't bowl as well as I used to. I get that. But when I did hit the pocket, my carry was not very good. What is your thought about no reel on PBA 50 tour? I don't understand why they have to re-oil every single round. Even though it probably benefits my game throwing the ball straighter, I like playing on lanes that have been burnt up a little bit. You have any injury problems? Not really. God, I'm 60 and tore my bicep bowling 6 months ago. Oh, sorry to hear about that. No, my injuries are fairly deep. I mean, I got injuries, or I should, I'm 63, so I've got aches and pains, but they're not really stopping me from bowling and prohibiting me from doing stuff. I can actually bowl two-handed, doesn't bother me. I bowled, about 9 games, I think, in the last 3 days, two-handed, maybe more. Where can you purchase horseshoe pit clay? What you can do is find out if there's a place near you that makes bricks. Usually they use clay in making bricks. Otherwise what a lot of people do, they go to where you get a stream that might form a little pond or something, and when you get the slow moving water, that's where the clay will deposit. Otherwise that it keeps going downstream. And sometimes those clays there will be really good. But digging up clay in the bottom of a pond doesn't work very well. So, do I remember Butch Gerhardt? I don't. I may have met him, but I don't even know if I met him. Appreciate the clinics. Let's see, where'd that go? Saw you were be on the road doing them again. Any chance you'll be back in the Midwest? It's going to be a while before I get to the Midwest. Right now, I'm gonna get close to the Midwest. I'm gonna go to Arkansas and maybe Missouri. Have you ever had to bowl a day after playing horseshoes or vice versa? I've actually bowled and pitched horseshoes in competition on the same day. Where's your favorite place to bowl? I like to bowl where there's good fans. Here at the Villages, they probably have the best fans when we bowled the tournament here. Unfortunately, I didn't get very far in that tournament. One bowler you wish got to bowl against but never have. Well, I mean, I did bowl against Earl Anthony, just never bowled against him on TV. I bowled with Dick Weber. I didn't get to watch a bunch of the older guys because they stopped bowling before I got out there. So, between horseshoes and bowling, which one is your favorite to play? Well, horseshoes is my favorite, my first love. I love doing both of them though. What's your opinion on the Peterson Classic? Gimmick or legit tournament? It's definitely a gimmick tournament. Um, it's there's some guys who bowl really well there. I bowled there this year. I used my black diamond trying to hook at and it didn't work at all. I had one double for 8 games, and I think I missed 2 spares. So I shot like 180 under or something like that. Seen some pinners going to string pins. What's your thoughts on that? Well, if they're good string pins, I don't think it's such a horrible thing. Um, I know that some of the string pins some of the older machines are not very good. I know that some of them they're using in some of the machines, some of the ones they're installing at some of the places, even the Bolero bowling centers, even though they're quote not legal, which I don't understand why they would do that. But they're still pretty they're still pretty decent as far as being close to what free fall pins are like. At the end of the day, the better bowler is going to be the better bowler. Walter, what was your favorite 300 game on the PBA tour and what bowling center? I don't know. I've bowled 110 300 games, so I don't know. Is there going to be PBA 60 tournaments? There was this year. I would assume there will be next year. Hopefully there'll be some. I've heard of guys using baseball mound clay bricks also for the pits. I have no idea. The kind of clay you want to get for horseshoes is a clay that's not going to be sticky when you get it a little bit wet. The problem is that's kind of a tendency of clays. They tend to be a little sticky. If you're in the New England area or even New York and Pennsylvania area, they have some really good clays up there that don't get too sticky when they get wet, and they're also nice and soft. The idea, a really good clay would be so soft you could put your finger in, pull it out, there's no clay on it, and you can stick your finger in it. That would be ideally soft, but that's like unrealistic. That's not going to happen very often. Think of it as like a bread dough that's not sticky. That would be awesome. And actually, some people do that for indoor places. There's a dough that they use, which has got a lot of salt in it, because you don't want to have something that's actually dough, because insects and bugs will start getting into it and stuff. And but let's see, what's up from Michigan? Well, I don't know what's up from Michigan. What's your advice for joining the PBA? I'm starting this year on tour because of my buddy Snodgrass. Well, Frank has been bowling great. I don't know him very well, but I know he's been bowling really well. And it's basically just, first off, go bowl some regional tournaments. You don't have to be a member to bowl a regional tournament. Bowl those, and if you happen to cash in a couple, then they kind of ask you got to join to be able to bowl more. So that gives you an idea of how well you compete with the local pros, and it's just a matter of how you can perform with that. A lot of guys that bowl the PBA tournaments, they do it because they love the competition. Yeah, it is challenging to make a lot of money bowling, but if you happen to be one of those who's really, really good, you got a chance at it. Have you ever had coaches in your bowling career, and why you have any now, if not? I'm kind of self-taught. Watch the guys on TV a lot. I think my horseshoe swing, which my dad taught me how to play horseshoes, and then I kind of did it all on my own. And I was fortunate to have somebody teach me a good 4-step delivery, and I kind of managed to make that decent. I had a friend of mine, a good bowler, who helped me with going from a 4-step to a 5-step delivery, and I've had a couple people work with me on tour, but I really don't have any quote coaches that when I get in trouble. I know my arm swing's not where it should be, but I know it would take a lot of work, and unfortunately, I'm not willing to put that extra time and effort into it. So that's, so I really can't complain about my bowling not being better than it is, because it also has to do with me not, I could put more time into it to being better if I really, really wanted to. And I keep thinking about, the two-handed game. I'm decent at it. I use it a fair amount well, not a fair amount. I use it sometimes at tournaments. Unfortunately, and I actually bowl pretty well with it. This week I actually averaged better two-handed than I did one-handed, and it still wasn't good enough. Unfortunately, the problem is I throw some very errant shots two-handed once in a while, but given a decent pattern, I can hit the pocket a fair amount. So, is there one ball that you won more tournaments with than any other? I honestly don't know. I know I did very well with the Crush R back in '93, and I did very well with the Danger Zone in '96. So the infamous 7-9 versus Patrick Allen. Bad break or bad shot? Well, that was actually an 8-10, not a 7-9. And it was a bad rack. It's not a horrible shot, but it obviously didn't strike very well. It was rather frustrating, but that happens. All the bowlers, where'd I go again? Oh, who is your Mount Rushmore? Well, I didn't bowl against Don Carter, but I put him on it. Earl Anthony, Mark Roth, Marshall Holman. But nowadays you got, then there's Pete Weber, Norm Duke, Parker Bone, Jason Belmonte, E.J. Tackett. So I don't know if Mount Rushmore lets you have more than 4, but we are moving to Bushnell. Am I close enough to bowl some sweepers around that area? Now there's Bushnell. You've got Tampa, which is probably an hour away, and you got Orlando, which is probably a little over an hour away. And the Villages is just north of there, about 40 minutes, 50 minutes. So you'll have plenty of places to bowl. I don't know what they have for bowling in Bushnell. It's a small town. I don't even know if they have a bowling center. So you might have an issue there. That would be the only thing. Am I bowling a regional in Ohio September 22nd? I don't think so. I think I'll be in South Carolina that weekend. Your favorite shot, piping up the gutter. I like playing the outside part of the lane. Problem is most times, even when they put an outside shot, I don't like the way they do it. I'd rather see a little tiny hook off the gutter, not an extreme amount of hook off the gutter. And most of the time, there's an extreme amount of hook off the gutter. And then the other part is they usually put so much oil in the front part of the lane, and the oil carries down, and they get kind of, quote, messed up. They don't really get messed up, but it's not a gutter shot like they used to have 30, 40 years ago. So, but, lanes are totally different, balls are different, or I should say the oil's different, so. Let's see. How are you doing? How was your transition to two-handed? Well, it's not really a transition. It's something I kind of learned to do. And I do it. I used to basically do it at the end of tournaments when I was really frustrated, didn't want to break things. So I would do that, just to kind of have fun bowling. And then I finally kind of worked on it a little bit so they could get semi-decent at it. And I bowl league that way. So I probably need to work on it a little bit. I think I could be pretty decent at it. And be a little bit more competitive out here even on the senior tour. The problem is I'm getting older. I'm 63 now, so, and my shot making's not what it used to be, which was what got me where I need to be. So, what age will you compete in horseshoes at the shorter distance? I don't know. I can actually compete at the shorter distance next year if I really want to. It depends on what they do. I hear they're wanting to modify the World Horseshoe Tournament and how they run it. And if they do things I hear about, I might just go to 30 feet just to show them that they shouldn't have done that in the first place. I didn't agree with that they modified the age to 65. It's the year you turn 65. I turn 65 next year. Do you know when, where you'll be in Missouri? I don't. I'm talking to a proprietor there, but I'm playing phone tag with him, and we don't seem to be able to get together. Heard anything regarding PBA tour schedule? I have no idea about the PBA tour schedule. I'm not going to bowl the PBA tour schedule. So, best tip for not to chicken wing the arm swing. Well, I would say keep your elbow into your belly. Just want to say I love my custom compass bowling jersey. Gary Faulkner did a fantastic job putting my vision of what I wanted done. We'll be ordering all of jerseys through Compass. Awesome, thank you. Yeah, Gary's one of our designers, and I'm glad to hear that you're happy with those. Regarding the person, oh boy, what happened? Where flash the camera on your swing in the O2 Empire State Open. Do you remember how the person reacted when you yelled at them? Did you ever talk with them after? I never did actually interact with that person. Unfortunately, it was a really sad incident. It was one of those portable setups, so the lanes are like 2 or 3 feet above the ground. What they did is they had some people in wheelchairs just to the right, down the foul line, just past the foul line. And then they had a couple of chairs for, I guess, some of their friends, guests or whatever. And it was actually one of them that took the flash picture when I was yelling at that guy. Everybody thought I was yelling at the people in the wheelchair. That wasn't the case. And what's really kind of sad is the announcers didn't even know what happened. It was just a really unfortunate thing that happened, and obviously I wasn't very happy about it. And I think I did have a nice big split when I did that. Saw me back in Erie in the 90s, so wanted to meet you in person. I did. Thank you. Signed the program back in the day. Well, thank you. I loved bowling in Erie. Great bowling town there. It was fun bowling there, and I had an unbelievable record there. It was really nice. Sending good thoughts to you and Fancy during the crazy weather. Well, right now the weather here is fine. Tonight, middle of the night, might get a little weird. We're far enough inland that we shouldn't get, the wind shouldn't be too bad. Maybe 50 miles an hour, and probably a few inches of rain maybe. But we get a few inches of rain, on some days here in the summertime anyway. Good to see Danny Wiseman back in the lanes last week. Yep, he was bowling well this week. Didn't bowl very well last week. Bowled well the week before. So he realizes that there's he doesn't bowl as much as he used to, and he does like to compete, but I don't think he's going to do a lot of traveling. Are you bowling in Canton, Georgia in October? I'm planning on it. It's great. Really great you do these things. Thank you. Well, thank you. I'm trying to strike. Fortunately, the pins kind of laugh at me. Any chance you would be coming to PA? Not in the foreseeable future. I'm going to be planning a bowl up in Virginia this weekend. They got a over 50, under 50 doubles tournament in Rocky Mount, Virginia, which is just north of the North Carolina border. Bowling with Nate Garcia, and we actually have a clinic scheduled that morning, September 2nd, so Saturday morning. So I know it's a little ways from Pennsylvania, but that's probably as close as I'm going to get to Pennsylvania for a while. Working on my second total knee replacement. Well, hope it works out for you. I fortunately haven't had to have any surgeries like that. Mr. Doug, I probably need to talk to you. I'm going to be going to Tennessee, then Arkansas, and I'm going to be doing some clinics. So are you interested in me doing one after the tournament in Arkansas? That would be like the 3rd weekend of September, so like that Monday. I'm not sure what the date would be. Let's see, 2nd, 3rd, 17th, so probably the 18th. I don't know if Monday's a good day for where you're at or not. So if you think the two-handed bowling that you like, why don't work with 64 is not that young. it's younger than 75 and 80, but compared to 50-year-old and 55-year-old, it's not that young. But it's a matter of me putting the time into it, and unfortunately, I don't put the time into it. But I keep thinking, maybe I should bowl more games that way. What's favorite memory of Imperial Lanes in Toledo? Well, I wouldn't say it's my favorite memory, but I made a TV show there, and Johnny Petraglia shot 300 at me. Gotta watch myself and Alan play in Lansing. It was a great match. Alan Francis. So you actually spelled his name Alan. It was okay. I mean, he's a great player. In the championship class, we both pitched basically our average. He beat me 40-15, and I finished 7th in the world tournament. Alan's very, very good. At one time, I used to be that good. That was a long time ago. Let's see. Glad to see you again. Hope to see you during your bowling. When are you coming back to North Carolina? Well, I'll be driving through North Carolina, and then let's see. The next weekend, I got a tournament in Kingsport, Tennessee. And then the next weekend will be in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The next weekend will be in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Then be down here in Oviedo. And then, and then the next weekend will be up in North Carolina. That will be, I think, the second weekend of October. Let's see. Had a great time bowling in the PBA 50 Pro-Am. Great, glad to hear that. Do you still bowl in Pro-Ams? Yes, when they have Pro-Ams at tournaments, I do bowl in them. Do you feel that bowling transitioning from urethane to resin was a factor in why you started winning a lot of titles? I guess it didn't hurt me at all, having a lower rev rate, and then people said that was the only reason I won, but I'd actually won before that, and actually after they came out, after the reactive resins, I was the last person to actually win using a plastic ball. So, but anyway. Hello, Brian from Akron. Regards from Columbia. Let's see. Keep up the good work from a horseshoe player in Illinois. Well, thank you. Have you interacted with collegiate bowling teams, such as the nearby University of Florida? Not a whole lot. They're a little ways away from where I'm at. How do you help someone control their emotions without them losing that competitive spirit? That's a really good question. You got to have a little bit of drive and desire, but you can't let the bad things overwhelm you. You got to somehow control that. Tom Hess is kind of a perfect example. He's very explosive. He's very emotional when he bowls. But this year he's really learned how to, keep himself calm in those situations and stuff. And he's bowling fabulous this year. It's one of the tougher things. I have a little bit of I get heated under the collar quite a bit myself, and it doesn't do me any good. So that's really one of the toughest things you can ever deal with. Pleasure of coaching a clinic with you at Brunswick Zone. Oh, where'd it go? Well, thank you, Chip. I think they should use the PBA 50 TOC format every week. What do you think? I like bowling lots of games. The problem is this tournament's actually an extra day, so it takes a little bit more away from the center. So there are pluses and minuses to that. But I definitely think pins carried over and round robin formats, even though they probably don't do me any favors because I'm not one of the top players. But I think that the PBA should use formats that are going to get the better players at the top of the tournament. I do not travel in an RV. I sold it many years ago. What do you focus on in a pressure situation? I try to focus on my target. Really miss watching your Facebook Live. Well, sorry, I can't. When Bowl TV is doing it, you can always subscribe to Bowl TV. They have way more content than you'll ever want to watch. But this weekend, if I do go to the tournament up in Virginia, I will probably live stream that. What style of bowling is harder on your body, two-handed or one? I haven't bowled in 17 years. Making a comeback. I would say two-handed is a little bit more physical, but I'm not as young, and I don't throw the ball near like the kids do two-handed. They throw it probably 2 to 3 miles an hour harder than I do, and their rev rate's probably 50 to 100 higher than mine with no problem. So, how many more years do you plan to bowl professionally? Any interest in bowling any more on the national tour? I don't know how long I'll be bowling on senior tour. This year, like I said, I managed to cash in every single tournament. I did get one super senior check, but I didn't have any of the top 5 finishes in the regular PBA 50 tournaments, which was very disappointing. And I did manage to win one of the super senior tournaments, the guys over 60. So it was kind of a disappointing season for me, but hopefully it's not my last. And no, I'm not planning to bowl any national tour events. Those young guys are really, really, really good. They do not get enough credit. I've crossed it a couple of times in the PBA 50. Look forward to seeing you in Spartanburg and Gastonia. Well, look forward to seeing you again, Charlie. Do you think we'll see the 17 bowler step ladder again for the TOC? I have no idea. Bowling league on wood lanes is straighter better if they are burned up. It really depends. Sometimes going straighter, sometimes hooking the ball. Why do you keep downplaying yourself of being 64? There's a lot of bowlers on the over PBA 50, and I love. I'm realistic. How's that? I'm 63, and there's a couple guys older than I am bowling on the senior tour, but I don't think any of them earn more money than I did. And there's one guy who probably could if he bowled all of them, and he doesn't bowl any. He doesn't bowl them. That's Ron Moore. Let's see. Gosh darn it. Why do you think about the large step ladders TOC? I honestly thought it was tedious TV. I have a bad feeling Fox has a hand in making it that way. Well, you can think all you want. You don't know what's going on. Drew, I don't know. They're trying to get more guys on TV. I always heard people say, "Oh, if you're not on TV, I don't want to watch." I'm like, well, if you don't watch, pretty soon you're not going to know anybody who's on TV. So, and I always thought that was one of the downsides of only having 5 guys on TV. I always thought getting more guys on TV was a much better way to get the pros out there, because there's so many guys that are really good, and not everybody can make a top 5. Even the good players don't make top 5 every week, or I should say the great players. So it's, to me, getting more guys on TV is not a bad thing. And honestly, I think the actual step ladder, they had 17 guys. If you can qualify 16, if you could be 16 or 17 and manage to win those 16 matches, more power to you. Not easy to do. Statistically, nearly impossible. Let's see. My son just switched to two-handed bowling. As someone who does both, what's the best tip you can give? Well, I mean, most of the young guys, that's what they do. They learn how to throw the ball hard. You need ball speed. Without ball speed, bowling two-handed just isn't going to work very well. And then practice. You got to be able to practice, and learning also to throw the ball nice and straight at your spares, whether it's doing it two-handed or putting your thumb in it and figuring how to. If you throw the ball nice and straight at your spares, because spares are probably one of the biggest problems, and it's been unfortunately this week I missed a few spares. I don't think I missed. I don't think I missed enough that actually cost me making the finals, but it sure didn't help. What other sports do you like or follow other than bowling and horseshoes? I like to play golf, but I don't play as much as I used to. I used to live on a golf course. I don't anymore, so I don't play nearly as much as I used to. One time I was pretty decent at it. Not really big into watching the team sports. I don't mind watching them, but I'm not the typical fan where I get behind a team and they're my team and I live and die by them. I don't understand the mentality. So, let's see. When you bowling in Port Richey again, I wanna challenge you. I beat Bob Learn back in 2007. Well, good for you. Um, I, I bowl tournaments in Newport Richey once in a while, so maybe just bowl the tournaments. We're not really in the path of the storm. We're going to get some of the side action from it. Probably most definitely the worst thing would be a tornado. They do happen once in a while. They don't happen very often, but they do happen. Let's see. Have watched you bowl at Woodland Bowl in Indy quite a bit. Did you ever have a center that you did not look forward to going to based on past results? Back in the old days, there was a couple centers that I had struggles with, but I always kind of took it as a challenge to try to figure it out. And my favorite all time, we had a teammate we called her Walter because she was a dead eye spare shooter. Well, thank you. I'm not sure if she appreciated that, but I guess. I don't know. Thank you. Flew back to New York because of the storm. I'll be back in Brooksville at 12. I think you replaced Randy and Fox. Are you with me or against me? I wouldn't mind doing commentary, but apparently the people in charge have no interest in me doing any kind of commentary on any kind of thing. I don't think people realize what it takes to continue to compete at that level. Has your practice changed with age? I agree. People don't realize how good the good players are. I mean, those good players, even on the senior tour, are very, very good. But the guys on the regular tour are even better. And it's not just, you got to put the time into it. And I don't put the time into it. And I do not practice as much as I need to be better than I am. Regarding Horseshoes, do you think a cadet moving to junior should change to a turn shoe from a single flip? I like the turning shoe. When you get back to 40 feet, there are a few guys that do a flip okay, but considering probably 70% of the players pitch a flip, and in the championship class, I think out of the 16, I think there was 13 that threw a turn. I think a turn's a much better method at more than 30 feet. I don't think the cadets. I think cadets should be 10 and under, not 12 and under. I was 10. I made the championship class in the boys division when I was 10, and I wasn't a big kid. I mean, when I was 10, I'm sure I was way less than 5 foot. She liked it. Still call her to that this day. Okay, well, as long as she liked it. What are your feelings on Microsoft's reign over the PBA? Anything you really liked or didn't like? They infused a lot of money into the tournaments. I didn't care for the CEO way he handled stuff. They basically felt that the PBA didn't know what they were doing and the players didn't know what they were doing because they'd taken over the guys from Microsoft had taken over the debt that they'd incurred, and when they were finished, they'd spent 5 or 6 times that amount of money. So I guess he taught us. I don't know. When I was young, I averaged 220, 225 on a house shot. Did a sport shot summer league, averaged 180. Really humbled me. Well, that's very typical. Most sport leagues, most people are going to lose 20 to 30 to 40 pins on their average, depending on what the actual sport leagues are. So, what format would you use PBA tournaments? I think I already mentioned that. Carry pins over, round robin match play with bonuses for winning the matches. I'd even get rid of the step ladder. There's no reason to have a step ladder unless you're going to be on national TV with 1 million people watching. If you got 5,000 people watching at home, I mean, that's the nice thing about, they've got on Bowl TV, they got about 8 cameras. It's a matter of keeping up with what's going on because there's a lot of action going on. That's probably the biggest challenge of doing something like that. But to me, cut it off there. That should be the guy who wins the tournament. Do you remember a bowler from my hometown, Mark Thayer? Yes. Really surprised he never won a title. Yeah, he was a great player. He made a couple of TV shows, and I think I want to say he was older than I was, and I don't think he's ever bowled a senior tour event. He was really good friends with Chris Warren, um, and I think he even played a little Horseshoes. One of my favorite matches was you and Mark Baker. Do you see Mark any? I see Mark once in a while. I saw him a few months ago at the USBC Hall of Fame, or at the USBC convention or something. Anyway, yeah, he was there. Mark and I are good friends. When I first started bowling on tour, I thought Mark was one of the best bowlers in Southern California. I think he was one of the best bowlers at that time. And then he did eventually won several titles. I think he won 4 titles on tour, and um, unfortunately had some back injuries. And he was a great player. I totally respected what his game is, and he's become very knowledgeable and understands. Is a great coach. Who was the toughest? Where'd I go? Who was the toughest bowler you ever bowled against? There's so many tough bowlers. There's so many good bowlers. Thank you, Mike. Well, Pete's a great bowler. Fortunately for me, he didn't. He let me win a lot on TV. But the thing is, that people say that and they look, oh wow, you really dominated Pete. And we only bowled each other 10 times on TV. So 10 times is really not that many. When you bowl somebody 1,000 times or 500 times, if you beat him 400 out of the 500 times, that's a difference. And I never kept track, and I'm sure he didn't either. But when we bowl each other round robin match play, and I bet we did bowl each other at least 500 times, if not more. If one of us was 51% of the other wins over the other guy, I'd be really surprised if more than that. I mean, we're both great players, and there were times that he was much better than I was, and other times I was much better than he was. So I would say over the long run, we were probably 50-50. Ever see Mike Colby? Yes, I do. Saw him at Bowl Expo. Mike's a great guy. And he's another guy never bowled PBA 50 tournaments. How would you attack a heavy oil flat pattern? You better throw good shots. Doesn't matter. Flat pattern, doesn't matter if it's short, oil, long oil. Flat patterns are tough. You need to make shots. I recommend practicing on a flat pattern. It makes you have to throw good shots. Bowling on a house shot, all it does is you think you can throw the ball wherever you want, so the ball goes to the pocket. No, you need to be able to throw better shots than that. And a flat pattern, you're going to see that. He didn't let you win. You're better. Well, he would never let me win. Things happen. He threw a bad shot. I got a bad break. I got a good break. Any idea if Steve Cook still bowls? I don't know if Steve Cook bowls. I did see him at Bowl Expo this year. Slow speed to the right. Well, let's see. Do you know if Robert Smith is bowling maybe in the PBA 50? I don't know if he's old enough yet. Let's see. I'm stepping out. Just wanted to say that's awesome. Thank you. Do I ever see Voss? No, he stopped bowling PBA tournaments several years ago. I haven't heard of him. We were never best friends, so. Well, thank you guys. Hope you had a good time. And like I said, it was a disappointing season for me on the PBA 50 tour, but that happens. I'm going to be bowling pretty much every weekend the next 2.5 months, so I'll be streaming most of that stuff. Well, you when you're bowling a flat pattern, it doesn't really matter where you play. You got to make great shots. All right, thank you. Let's see.